All right, boys and girls, first things first, I'm going to announce that I'm starting a podcast. I'm going to have one other person I'm hosting with every week, and then we will have a guest that kind of rotates in, maybe one or two, depending on the week. Preferably a pro, a caster, maybe even like a map maker, something like that. So if you have any cool guest ideas that you think are realistic, maybe not simple quite yet, maybe we've got to wait until we get a little bit bigger for that. But, first guest, it will be a pro, someone that I think you guys will like, but I'm not going to announce anything quite yet. Look on Twitter the next week or two. I will be posting for you guys to ask whatever questions with the guest name. So let's say the guest is Elige, which it's not. You could, oh, Elige, what do you do for your hair? So you can just ask whatever. It doesn't have to be CS related. It could be real life. Could be anything. Could be a troll question as long as it's not too crazy. I'll ask it. We're trying to have it a little bit more fun, so a little bit more like Counter-Strike, real life, maybe, a little bit other stuff like what's your favorite movie? Just like, little things that get a little bit more personable with some of these pros that you might not, know a whole lot about them other than, what they show on maybe a Twitch stream, but honestly, not a lot of pros are even streaming continuously on Twitch these days, so I feel like a lot of these guys are kind of like little hermits, and the idea is just to kind of, have some fun conversations, so be on the lookout for that, and, just wanted to make a quick side video at the same time about G2 and what I think of them. I didn't watch every single map of every game of this last tournament that they played in the Esports World Cup. However, I did catch enough of them to kind of give my opinion on things. So first things first, Nico's playing out of his mind. Definitely looking promising for him. His stats at this event were pretty absurd, 1.35 rating, 61% headshot, which is high even for him. I feel like kills 0.86 kills per round. I mean, this is just like smurfing on tier 1 opponents, basically, playing out of his mind. m0NESY didn't feel like he quite performed to his normal level, but obviously he was still good. Malbs, newer player, kind of filling in, kind of finding his place on the team, still, third with, Hunter being fourth and Snacks fifth. Now, obviously, they started off, 16-11 or 13-11, 16-13 versus Mongols, which I don't feel like Mongols is easy to team. I think people in their head, they kind of like assume that G2 should just easily beat them, but I think Mongols has kind of proved that they're a tough opponent to play versus. So, especially as your first game, we're a little bit nervous because they play a little bit more unorthodox than other teams. But then we see Spirit get into G2, and this was like G2's first real test in my mind, and I feel like, 13-8, 13-5, those are pretty convincing wins. Obviously, Nico's playing out of his mind. Hunter had a really good series. Even Malbs was putting up pretty good numbers in this game, so I didn't see Mirage, but I saw Nuke and Ancient, and I don't know. I feel like I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty right after I go over these games, so just bear with me here. G2 versus Virtus Pro. I feel like G2 always plays well versus VP. I feel like the styles kind of like complement G2 just because VP is so slow and methodical that like G2 kind of thrives by just being an aim-based team. They're like, you walk into m0NESY's crosshair, you die. You walk into Nico's crosshair, you die. It's not maybe the best idea. Maybe they got to go back to the drawing board on this one. But yeah, very, very convincing win versus VP. I don't know if VP just played poorly. I was not paying complete attention in this game. Then, obviously the finals, Na'Vi versus G2. I was watching Ancient, and I thought G2 was looking really good. Obviously, after the T side, they swapped sides. Na'Vi brought it back to OT. And then eventually G2 kind of clinched it out. But after that game, I just feel like Na'Vi kind of had their number and just kind of ran them over. I mean, honestly, I think you just kind of saw that Na'Vi's a more well-oiled machine. They had the better strat book. They had the better fallback plans. They had the better reads, and I just think, like, G2 needs a little bit more time. Obviously, they're such a good team. They won the IM Dallas with Stu ringing and Nexa. So, like, obviously you could never count these guys out. But in a game where things aren't going your way and m0NESY isn't putting in like a tier 1 simple-esque performance, I feel like it's going to be hard. Nico played well, but at the end of the day, it wasn't enough to beat Na'Vi. I think Bit had one of his best tournaments ever. So yeah, pretty impressed by Bit, honestly. Everything I saw from the guy, he was just playing lights out. Now, My main concern for this roster is like I'm not entirely sold on Snacks yet. I feel like they kind of replaced Hooksy's fragging with Snacks fragging. It's not that much better, and I feel like I'm not convinced the T sides are going to be that much improved from the tactile aspect either. I need to watch more to see and really like go through the demos to really see before I say anything conclusively, but I feel like Malbs has proven himself to be like he instantly fit in this lineup. He's playing anchor positions, which he hasn't played in a very long time. T side, he looks fairly comfortable from what I've seen. He kind of slotted in T side pretty seamlessly. But I think CD side, he just needs time. Like you can play as many scrims as you want. You can play as many officials online as you want. But there's something different about playing a LAN match, semifinals, quarters, finals, when you're not like completely in tune with your spots yet. And I think that's kind of where you get like a wake-up call of like, oh, my timings are a little bit off there. Oh, I shouldn't save my smoke quite that long. You know what I mean? It's just like there's just those little things that you build up over time. And when you're someone that's always played a spot for your whole life, all those internal timings, everything feels really good. And you might be thinking like, oh, well, if you're a pro, shouldn't you learn fast? It's like, it's not about that, right? It's like, obviously they can learn how to play the spot well, but to be truly great at a spot, I think you do need some time and some repetitions, and you have to get owned to be able to like realize why you got owned. So I don't know how the practices went, but you know, new team, honeymoon feeling. Sometimes you just play a spot and you're just hitting your shots, and that's that. But you know, honestly, it's not like he played bad. Don't get me wrong. He played well. You could tell he's a little bit uncomfortable in certain spots. Maybe not quite as killer instinct, but the thing about Malbs is even when he's uncomfortable, he's still going to get one. So, you know, like if you come to his site, like he's probably getting one before he dies. Maybe he doesn't do everything perfectly, but that's why I think it's going to be really scary when he truly gets comfortable in these positions. I think he's just going to, this roster is going to be really scary, like in my mind. Not that they're not already scary. I just think like once this guy gets fully integrated. Another thing is too, is like people forget that like, when you have a player that gets put into new spots like anchor spots, a lot of times people are like, oh well, he didn't transition to the role very well, and that does happen sometimes. But I feel a lot of times it's like an attitude issue. Like if you're Nico or Elise or something and you're the star of your team, and then someone's like, yo, you should play ramp on nuke, you should play like A on ancient, you should play, you know, long on dust 2. These are all spots that are not really star roles, and it can be, even if you're one of the best players in the world, it can be hard to transition to those roles, especially if you don't give it 100%. If you're not giving it 100% and you're kind of going in with a bad attitude, it's going to hurt you, and you're going to underperform, and I think that happens to a lot of players. That's why I think the players that truly commit and understand that like Counter-Strike is a team game, not all of us can be stars. Because like Malbs is good enough to be the star of this team, honestly. Like, yeah, Nico is better, but like Malbs is right there, man. Like he's really good. So it's like having a player like that, and that's and like I say this because I know I've talked to Malbs in real life. You know, I've seen him at events, play with him online, and he's just a really fun dude to be around. Like he's always joking, he's always smiling, he's always laughing. So I just really like him. I think he's got a good attitude. So, I mean, you know, maybe on a team he's the biggest rager and he ruins all the atmosphere, but it does not seem like that from everything I've seen. Hunter, still underperforming in my opinion. I really think Hunter's got to step his game up too. If Hunter could step up, even with Snacks playing kind of poorly, like I think that would just be like, that roster would be super scary. Like if Hunter got back to his old like CSGO, you know, clutching all these rounds, having these weird timings. Because, like, for me, Hunter was always one of those players that would, like, on Inferno, he would just walk into Boiler and, like, timing 2 dudes in the side and just kill them. Or, like, Dust 2, he would, like, sneak into lower mid-round and, like, walk up and either clear the upper B tunnels and know they were going A or, like, kill 3 people on the side. Like, so many of his big rounds, to me, were just, like, really good intuition plays where he would, like, kind of read the round really well and just, like, hit a timing that, like, it's like those timings where like you're holding lower B, you're holding lower B, you're holding lower B, you're holding lower B for like 30 seconds, and then you turn to go back upper B, and he walks around the corner and flanks your whole team. And then your teammate's like, Jeff, why weren't you watching lower? And you're like, I was, man. He must have turned the corner the middle. You know, like everyone's had those situations before, and they're the worst feeling. So, yeah, I think if Hunter could get back to that level, I mean, I don't know if it's CS2 affecting him. I'm not like Like I'm sorry when I do this, it's just from what I've seen in games, right? Like I don't watch all 5 players for all 30 rounds of every game, right? So it's like I'm getting little bits and pieces. So sometimes I could be wrong on those things, and if so, I'll change my mind or my opinion, and I'm not gonna sit there with my foot shoved into the ground and not willing to move, right? So Snacks, like I said, Mondesi just had a little bit off performance. It's not like he played bad, but like for me, whoops. For me, I would. How should I say it? It's like, for me, it's like you go to the stats of this event. Sorry, I was just clicking the wrong thing. He's not even in the top 10. What a noob. So you go down here, you see Mondesi. He got a 1.14 rating. He's got a 0.71. But I feel like this would be fine if Hunter was played a little bit better, and then Snacks and the team had been around a little bit more. Maybe their strats are more flushed out. Like, from what I understand, they had like a week of practice for this event, so I'm not going to harp too much. I'm not going to hate on Snacks too much. He definitely needs a couple months here to solidify himself and get everything, the system running the way that he wants and integrate everything in the team. But I just think, like, Mondesi, this performance normally would be totally fine. But I think when not everything is perfect, like, Navi's got their system. They got their strats. They got their fallback plans. They have, they got everything just mapped out. Blade has got all the notes and all the sheets, all the anti-strats. So for them, if, like, Wonderful underperforms, it's probably not as big of a deal. Like, right now, G2 relies a lot on skill, a lot on hitting shots. And when Mondesi's not, playing at that level, it hurts them more than maybe other teams. But I do think that will be alleviated over time. Like, once they become more conditions, once Malbs is more situated in the team, if Hunter can step up a little bit, then I think they'll be fine. Because right now, Nico is playing out of his mind, so you have another... If Mondesi was playing out like Nico was, or like he did in Dallas, they would have won this tournament, right? Like, I think that's the end of the day. But again, you have 2 new players, barely any practice, and you got second, so I don't know. I'm a huge Mondesi fan. I love Nico. I love the one-taps. I love Malbs. I have nothing against Hunter or Snacks, but those 3 are the ones that I've always been fans of. So those are my opinions on it, and congratulations to Navi, who played really well. Honestly, like, Bit, one of the best tournaments of his life. I really like Bit as well. This guy the guy's 21. He's got 2 majors, a Grand Slam, not the one from Danny's, and yeah. So anyways. Those are my thoughts. Remember to be on the lookout for my podcast. I'll be putting on Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that. So, yeah, peace out, boys.